Armageddon Time, the new film from New York director James Gray, a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age tale based on James Gray's life story set in Queens of 1980. What was it like, and is it any good? Well, I'm about to tell you guys. Feel free to like and subscribe, and let's do this. The movie depicts a Jewish New York family originating from Ukraine and focuses on son Paul Graff, a misbehaving 6th grader coming of age at a time when the world is in transition. Befriending his rebellious classmate Johnny, Armageddon Time manages to encapsulate the experiences of youth through the lens of class, race, and the educational system of late 70s, early 80s NYC, with an ensemble cast including, in my opinion, a great performance from Anne Hathaway in the mother role.
My whole life.
Well, you're not to associate with him again.
What do you mean? Why?
I think you know what I mean.
Not to mention a touching performance from Anthony Hopkins in the role of grandfather. In a nutshell, the misunderstood Paul and Johnny are disruptive and disobedient in class. They come from different backgrounds, Paul being white and middle-class Jewish, Johnny being poor and African American. Both are naughty. However, destiny and fate are proving to be more favourable to the Paul character, unfortunately, due to socio-economic and ethnicity-related reasons.
Life is unfair. Be thankful when you're given a leg up.
Gray brings the same feel from some of his earlier works, and it's great to see him back to his roots, source material-wise. He's actually the man that brought us some of Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg's best performances.
And I'm just asking because you know I can't get into no trouble. You know that.
You won't get into trouble. I won't let you get into trouble.
Before Joker, Phoenix exhibited the lonely man archetype brilliantly. In Yards, We Own the Night, and in Two Lovers, where he gets triangulated by the damaged BPD chick.
I understand you, Michelle. I'm fucked up too. Go!
The Queen's authenticity is back once again, years after Gray's low-key masterpiece, The Yards from 2000. Gray brings Hopkins into Armageddon Time in the same fashion he brought back James Caan in The Yards, an understated, solemn performance that isn't too loud but integral to the overall story of the younger protagonist.
You think that's funny? You think that's smart? I tell you what I think that's a crock of old horse.
Goddamn accident waiting to happen.
When Marky Mark transitioned into Mark Wahlberg, before he became too commercial after Boogie Nights, The Yards is the other movie where he's actually doing critically acclaimed acting. That's probably his second best performance as the Queen's Gen X fuck-up raised by a single mother.
I know I'm not the son you wanted. I promised myself that I would do whatever I could to fit in.
The way Gray was able to get great performances out of actors before is here once more. Both Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway as Paul's parents brought a feel of authenticity in terms of temperament as well as the sentiments of that particular time period.
Wake up, come on. I can't, I got a steam boiler to fix at 9.
The scene where Strong, in the role of the father Irving Graff, strikes his son with the belt after he's been caught smoking weed. It's not a depiction of child abuse as much as an encapsulation of the values and practices of that time. It's 1980, not 1989. Gen Xers, especially the ones born in the late 60s, were catching actual beatdowns, a belt if it was your dad, slippers or shoes if it was your mum. You may think to yourself, oh, it wasn't the 1950s like in Goodfellas. Again, the film is accurate and sincere to its setting. It's 1980. His parents are barely boomers. The father, probably younger silent generation. I know personally, when the Gen Xers were young, in the early 80s, they were subject to the belt.
I don't like it, but I'm not going to rewrite history and say, my father sat me down and gave me a little candy, or he had read a book that Oprah Winfrey had suggested that he read. That was not the world.
Those aspects of the picture are brutal and unflinching, but document honest behavioural patterns from recent history, especially Hathaway's whole performance. Her delivery, her mannerisms, I can't say enough for this one. It only feels like yesterday she was the young, rebellious, cool teenager in Havoc, West Side.
West Side.
Now she's playing the mother, struggling to discipline her own rebellious 6th grader son. I love the sense of 1980 being on the cusp of the modern age with the birth of hip hop in the backdrop. But there's still a bunch of outdated mentalities and practices. Setting wise, basically, in a post-lockdown world, Gray done as good a job as one could do, recreating New York on location where it feels like you're actually watching real New York. Just there weren't as many extras as there were in some of his earlier works. In terms of New York authenticity, Hopkins was spot on as the wise, understanding granddad, but I wasn't buying him as Jewish, much less a New Yorker. Originally, De Niro was set to be in the grandfather role. For me, Dustin Hoffman would have been amazing as an old-time Jewish New Yorker.
Fire! All right, don't raise your voice to me. I'm right here. I'm not across the street. You've been yelling at me all night.
I know he grew up in LA, but come on. He's like an honorary New Yorker.
I had my first office in New York.
Having said that, some of the other family members, the paternal grandparents, had that old-time New York Jewish feel about them. The aroma of Delancey Street.
It's perfect except we'll take another one.
The only faults would be the tone maybe was slightly off in terms of the narrative. That gritty, brooding, modern-day NY Shakespearean tone Grey does.
Buddy from my old school.
Maybe didn't quite hit the mark in terms of two 11-12-year-old schoolboys coming of age, but it's kind of stuck with me, so I'm like, ultimately this was a return to form overall. I think We Own the Night is probably Gray's most entertaining film. The Yard's his best, down to its tragic tone. This and Two Lovers may be the most honest, less of the sexy crime component as such, but a harshness of reality via the depiction of 1980 Queens. The two best modern movies about 1980 as a period piece have to be this and Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some, about a college freshman's first weekend in dorms at a Texas college. The ending was kind of bittersweet, kind of director John Sayles-esque. This is the unfair, unequal world we live in, but life goes on.
Life is unfair. Be thankful when you're given a leg up.
Like in Sayles' Baby It's You and Lone Star. Overall, I'm giving it a 7.6. It's very good, but not quite great. But I'm very thankful to be able to see a movie like this in the cinema. Again, the young kids meshed with Hopkins and Hathaway's performances, Gray's vision and direction make this one to remember. If you've made it this far, well, thank you very much. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.